Another year is coming to a close, my children. So to that, I say let's celebrate. How does this work? Oh, it's a twisty turny. That's a little disappointing. I thought I could pop it off and it'd be like, woo! Cheers, mates. You are probably supposed to sip that. Anyway, I thought that I would drop this video today just in case anybody needed some company on New Year's, or maybe you're getting ready to go out to a New Year's party, wanted something to watch as you do your makeup. If that's the case and you need a hype man, then you look amazing, girl. You're gonna kill it tonight. If you're like me, then you're not quite sure what to make of a new year because the world is a bad place. But at least we have horror movies. Also, I'm just kidding. The world is a very wonderful place. You should go sometime. Today I'll be getting into all the new releases that I'm most excited for 2022. I'm gonna start with all the movies that we know their release dates, so I'll do that in order, starting with January, working my way down, and then I'll get into all the movies that have been announced. A lot of them have been scheduled for 2022, but we just don't have an exact release date. So starting things off with something I'm sure we're all very excited about, that would be Scream. This is coming on January 14th. We have just a little over a month before we get a brand new Scream movie. I will drink to that. I don't want to know anything, and I will go so far as to say that I will block anyone that even talks about what happens in the trailer or gives me any spoilers. Seriously, don't test me. You'll never be welcome back here again. Even if you make a new account, I will find you. All that I'm aware of is that our main trio is returning, and my girl Jenna Ortega is starring in the cast. I don't know why I like her as a horror actor so much, but I feel the same way about Catherine Newton. Like, they just make sense in the genre to me. Also, we have a lot of movies to talk about today, so I'm not gonna get too in depth with all of them. Also, I'm someone that if I'm interested in a movie, even remotely, I won't watch the trailer. I don't really want to know anything about it. And 10 out of 10 times, that makes my viewing experience better. I did that with Halloween Kills, Last Night in Soho, The Night House, and being completely taken aback and having no idea what would happen in those movies, I think definitely enhanced my experience. So that's the vibe for 2022. If you're not on that wave already, I suggest you join me. Up next would be a movie called Deepwater, also coming out on January 14th. First thing right off the bat, why would you do this? Why would you release a horror movie that comes out the same day as Scream? What's not clicking? Although of course I find out as I'm editing that they moved it from its January release date. I think somebody finally had their head screwed on right and they realized, hey, we should probably not release this movie the same day that Scream gets released. The movie sounds decent too. It's about this man who allows his wife to have affairs so that she won't divorce him, and then he becomes a prime suspect in her lover's disappearances. I guess there wasn't any money in the budget to market this movie, but it is listed as an erotic psychological thriller, so that has my attention. This one isn't super high up on my list, but it sounds interesting and I don't really see anyone else talking about it. Moving on to February, we have the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that comes out on February 18th. This is actually the second year that I've had this movie on my most anticipated list of the next year. I think we were actually supposed to get this movie this year, but then they had a lot of trouble selling it off to a streaming service, or they didn't know if they were gonna distribute it to theaters, or I don't know. The marketing for that one is super weird. I think now they have released the synopsis, so people know loosely what the movie is about. At least now we have an actual solid release date. We know that the original Sally is returning, but that's all I know. I'm not gonna watch a trailer when it comes out. It comes out pretty soon, within the next 2 months, so of course I'll give it a review then. Although given that this franchise has always been a mess, I don't have high hopes for this one. Leatherface from 2017 was one of the worst of the entire franchise, and that one followed Texas Chainsaw from 2013, which was just also a big woof. So what do they want from me? They want me to get excited? I don't know. I'm just hoping that my low expectations will help me to appreciate whatever I do get from the movie. That has worked for me thus far. Whenever I go in with no or low expectations, I have a great time. That's what happened with Halloween Kills. Okay, this next one is called The Black Phone. It comes out February 4th. I'm not excited for this one at all, and you might be asking, well, why then did you put it on your most anticipated list? The title rolled off the tongue as most anticipated horror movies of 2021. I don't think that it would have sounded that great to say most anticipated horror movies of 2021 plus a couple that sound like shit. The main reason why I'm not pumped is that I'm most likely not gonna be down for a kidnapping story. As most people do with movies, I watch horror movies as a form of escapism, either to have fun with slashers and dark comedies, or to sit back and think, yeah, my life isn't that bad. So to have to watch a child get kidnapped and then probably try to escape or something, that just doesn't sound like fun in any sense of the word. And I am not, nor will I ever be the type of person that wants to have a bad time during a movie. I don't understand the people that keep trying to push extreme horror onto me. You gotta watch this French film, this girl gets skinned alive and tortured. Anyways, the black phone sounds no fun at all, and I also did actually watch the trailer for this one. Normally, I'll play music in my AirPods and I'll close my eyes during trailers if I happen to get to a movie too early. But as soon as I saw that it was gonna be a kidnapping movie, my interest plummeted, so I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll watch the trailer. And conceptually, it looks like a real mess. I am not a fan of a messy plot. Give me a complicated plot, sure. I love to unravel me a good, juicy story. But mess? No. Hi, me again. Awkward, but this one was also rescheduled. It's not coming out in February anymore. It'll be released in summertime. I actually didn't find any concrete releases for March, April, May, or June. And that's not including Marvel releases. I didn't want to include those because I'm sure that you guys don't care about that. Although I've been trying. I've been bringing my dad onto all my live streams with me, and Marvel usually comes up. So I'm slowly trying to get you guys on board with the fact that I am a Marvel girl at heart. Anyways, the next movie we have on this list, one of my most anticipated by far. That would be Nope, coming on July 22nd. We are getting another Jordan Peele horror movie, baby! We talked about this back in July when I did a reaction to the Chucky trailer and I talked about other fun horror movie news. And still, all I know about this movie is that the poster looks like this. Wait, that's not true because it's also starring Daniel Kaluuya, Stephen Yeun, and Keke Palmer. We won. I'm ridiculously psyched. There are a couple other movies that I might be more excited for, but I don't know. This is probably my most highly anticipated movie of the coming year. I'll do a ranking. I'll do a top 5 of all the movies that I'm most excited for in 2022. It's hard to say which one I'm most anticipating because we also have Scream, and later I'll talk about Halloween Ends coming out next year. But I don't have super high hopes for either, although, you know, that's just how I guard my heart. You can't be disappointed if you go in without expectations. Well, that's not true because the movie could just be bad, but like, you get my point. Moving on, we have no confirmed releases for August, so I'll move on to September. Excuse me. Up first, we have Salem's Lot coming September 9th. I keep putting my hand out like this, but some of these actually won't have posters, so sorry. I guess they're remaking this one too. I tried to watch the original a long while back and I couldn't do it. I mean, why is that movie 3 hours long? No. Unacceptable. So I welcome a remake of that movie in particular, but also given that I feel like every iteration of a vampire story has already been told, what are they gonna do? This one just feels like a soulless money grab waiting to happen, so no hopes for that. Up next would be Dark Harvest, also coming September 9th. This movie actually sounds lit. It's the return of a goofy slasher, so are you ready? A legendary monster called October Boy terrorizes... I'm sorry, October Boy. A legendary monster called October Boy terrorizes residents in a small Midwestern town when he rises from the cornfields every Halloween with his butcher knife, and he makes his way towards those who are brave enough to confront him. Like, what? Need I really say more? You'll see this with a couple other movies on this list that I really feel like we are gonna see a re-emergence of the B-movie. Not the B-movie, but sorry, I actually totally just stole that joke from my friend Slasher Pepper. All major studios are doing is rebooting old classics, remaking old classics, or hiring Jordan Peele, and sometimes they're doing both at once. It's time to let the B-movie rule the box office again. I mean, they won't, but they'll be on streaming services and I will be ready. Also, October Boy? Are you kidding me? I want that on a shirt. I am an October Boy. This next one, though, is definitely in competition with Nope. That would be Don't Worry, Darling. We're gonna see this fine movie on September 23rd, or at least I am. I am booking tickets as soon as humanly possible. Olivia Wilde is directing, Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, and Chris Pine are all starring, and it's a period piece thriller set in the 1950s. Are you joking? The degree to which I am down cannot be fathomed. Give it to me. I feel like the names I mentioned are reason enough to get excited about this movie, so I'm gonna move on. We're jumping right into October, which this is probably gonna be the most anticipated movie by the horror community as a collective. That would be Halloween Ends. Although, I don't know, I would actually be hard-pressed to guess which movie people are more excited for, Scream or Halloween Ends. Because there were actually a lot of Halloween fans that are not a fan of this new trilogy. I personally am, because this is the end of the current trilogy, and Halloween Kills actually blew me away. So I'm allowing myself to get my hopes up for this one, because at the very bare minimum, I can expect insane action and really brutal kills. I'm a simple girl, what can I say? That is actually only true sometimes. As for plot and everything like that, definitely stick around, because at some point, probably in September or maybe a few weeks before the release, I'm gonna release my predictions for Halloween Ends, or at least I want to. Hopefully I don't forget. C'est la vie. I'm running through the world like a running back. That is delicious. Up next would be Hocus Pocus 2. This actually doesn't have an official release date, it just says it's coming out sometime in the fall, so I'm assuming probably October, although maybe September, we might see it earlier. But it's been almost 30 years since the original was released, to bad reviews, mind you. But it has since become a cult classic and is beloved by many horror fans. So far, we've pretty much just seen the image that Disney released of the original trio, and they look fantastic. And who knows what those witches are gonna get into in this long-awaited sequel. I'm just hoping the concept of virginity will play a smaller role in this sequel, because that's the one thing about the original that always makes me cock my head. In today's world, I'm pretty sure that it won't be though, so I'm not too worried about that. Unfortunately, as of yet, we have nothing to talk about for November, so I'm gonna move to December releases. A movie called Violent Night is coming sometime in December. David Harbour of Stranger Things will be starring in this Christmas horror movie, which is very exciting. He just brings this level of self-awareness to almost every single role that he's in, which always makes for good comedy. So I really hope that they put his talents to good use for Violent Night. I'm sure they will. I'm kind of banking on the fact that it'll be a dark comedy because he's such a comedy actor. Although he can be serious. I mean, we've seen him in Stranger Things. There is comedy in that show though, too. So I don't know. We'll see. Now we're getting on to actually the biggest portion of this video, which is all the movies that have no release date yet. They're just scheduled for sometime in 2022. Or not all of them. Some of them are just movies that have been announced. Although with a lot of them, they have also made it known that they are done with production, or a lot of them are in post-production. So we will most likely be seeing all of these movies next year. Although, I mean, with COVID, like, do we really know? Anyways, this first one might be my most highly anticipated of the whole year. It's called The Menu. Though there has been nary a sign of this movie's existence, I am so ridiculously pumped. It's currently in post-production, and do you want to hear about it? Do ya? Okay, so this young couple travels to a remote island. They want to dine at this very exclusive restaurant, and a chef has prepared a line of really exquisite meals, but there is a shocking surprise. Do you know why I'm so excited for this movie? This girl, Anya Taylor-Joy, always a selling point, always. Lord Voldemort is also starring in this movie, fun times. And Sir Nicholas Hoult is starring in this movie, who you might remember from a movie called Warm Bodies, which I really love that movie, but I feel like it's one that time is beginning to forget. Also, The Menu is going to be a dark comedy, which is one of my all-time favorite subgenres of horror. I mean, bravo! I can't wait for a poster drop or something. I just want a little taste of the movie, just a little taste. They already have my ticket. I don't want any spoilers, just a taste. That's all we have for now though, so I'll move on to the next movie, which is a reboot of Firestarter, and it'll be starring Zac Efron as the lead. Hey, I'm not gonna say no to Zac Efron starring in a horror movie. I don't believe we've been graced with such a thing before, because that Ted Bundy movie was not horror. But I haven't actually seen the original that's from 1984, I think, so I couldn't really tell you if I'm psyched for a reboot. The most likely answer is no, because I feel quite starved for original content, and Blumhouse now seems to be pretty reliant upon rebooting old classics like Halloween and The Exorcist, when Blumhouse used to produce so much original content. Like, that was their whole thing. So we'll see. I'm definitely gonna see it when it comes out. Up next, something I'm actually excited for would be Orphan: First Kill. It was originally titled Esther, and it is a prequel to the 2009 movie Orphan, which I watched for the first time this year, actually, and I was blown away. I really liked it. Absinthe? Absinthe! Let me get the boy. Look at this big boy. You're gonna be famous. Did you know that? He's so pretty. There's absolutely nothing going on in his head at any point of the day. No thoughts. Head empty. You wanna be let down? He had a thought. Anyway, so I watched the original Orphan for the first time this year and I really, really liked it. Isabel Fuhrman is returning to play Esther, which is interesting because this is gonna be a prequel and she was a child when she was in the first movie. Although if you've seen the movie, then you might understand why this would kind of work out well for a prequel. I'm just hoping they don't try to CGI her head onto a child's body or something. That's really my only concern because that would take me out of the movie, but otherwise I'm really interested to see her backstory. Something I am excited for is Terrifier 2. This feels like another one that I definitely put in last year's most anticipated video because I think we were supposed to get it this year. Art the Clown gets resurrected by a malicious force, and I'm assuming he then goes on to kill a bunch of young, good-looking people. The original Terrifier is such a fun movie. It's honestly probably the best modern true slasher that we have, and really the only new iconic slasher villain that we've gotten in the last 30 years? He's obviously not on the same level as all of our classic villains like Michael and Jason or anything like that, and also these movies are definitely B movies, but I think that someday Art will be up there. He has a very distinctive look, and I think his mannerisms and everything are super iconic. The first Terrifier was also such a throwback with its style and its B movie schlock kind of vibe, so I'm excited that we're getting more. Speaking of B movie schlock, let's move on to another movie I'm excited for. This one is titled My Best Friend's Exorcism. This is actually a period piece set in 1988, which, to be real, I'm not psyched about another 80s movie. Honestly, the nostalgia for the 80s needs to die, but the 90s has been revitalized at this point. I think we're moving on from the 80s, so it's weird to me why this movie is gonna be set in the 80s, because we've also just gotten a painful amount of things that were set in the 80s these past 5 to 6 years, but the premise sounds like I would have a good time. Best friends Abby and Gretchen enjoy a night of skinny dipping, but afterwards it's clear that there is something wrong with Gretchen. And given the title of My Best Friend's Exorcism, I wonder what's gonna be wrong with Gretchen. I hope that that's gonna play out more like a dark comedy because I really don't need another exorcism movie. That one sounds like the type to go straight to streaming too, so hopefully I will talk about that one when it comes out. That's true of like all of these though. Up next would be the new Hellraiser that is apparently coming to Hulu in 2022. This is one that I'm excited for because I can't wait for men to open their big mouths on the internet and complain that Pinhead is being played by a woman, only to get clowned on by all of the cooler people in the community that will have to remind them that Pinhead never had a gender. I don't know, just love seeing idiots get dunked on, what can I say? Also, I've only ever seen the first movie of this franchise, so I have no idea what to expect. As soon as we get a release date, I'm gonna start planning my Hellraiser marathon, because I want to gear up for the new one and to do a ranking of the whole franchise. Because honestly, I probably won't dedicate a whole review to a new Hellraiser movie. But I'm excited to dive into that franchise and eventually give you guys a ranking. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Up next would be Evil Dead Rises. Again, no release date yet. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are also listed as producers on this movie. But as we hopefully know by now on this channel, sometimes that just means they invested in the movie and they want to get that return. So they might not have any creative input, I don't know as of now. Also, I've only ever seen the original movie and the remake, so that is a franchise I need to dive into as well once that movie comes out. And I do hope to do an Evil Dead comparison video. If you're new here, I do a lot of original versus remake comparison videos where I do a very heavy deep dive into the history of each movie. So probably when we get closer to the release of this movie, that is something I will do. So even though I haven't seen the movies in this franchise that are most fans' favorite, don't fret, I'll get there very soon. Up next, we have an untitled Pet Sematary project. Yeah, for some reason we're getting this. The plot is being kept under wraps, but the movie is currently in post-production, and it's supposedly going to be released to Paramount Plus. I really hope it's not a sequel to the remake that we got from last year. I'm hoping that it's gonna go in more of a prequel route. It's being written and directed by a woman, so hopefully it'll be a new, fresh take. I also asked you guys during one of my recent live streams if I should do a comparison video with Pet Sematary, but now that I've heard about this, I think again I'll have to wait until closer to that release date to start releasing some Pet Sematary content. And this isn't something that I'm really that excited for, but it does have a lot of potential. Although given that it's probably gonna share the same universe as the last remake, let's maybe not get our hopes up. Up next, we might be getting an urban legend movie in 2022. It's still in pre-production, so let's maybe not get our hopes up for a 2022 release date, but you know, fingers crossed. It sounds like what I would call a reboot of the original movie. It says it'll follow college students as their peers die around them, succumbing in the style of different urban legends. I really don't think it'll be a direct remake because we've already seen all those deaths. We would know what was gonna happen and who the killer is, and that would be no fun at all. What I do hope to see is just some new, really cool kills, and I hope that they kind of do bring back that 90s vibe. What would be super cool, actually, is if they could get Robert Englund to play a small role again, and maybe Brad Dourif too, why not? That kind of does it though for all of the more mainstream sounding horror movies that I think are gonna come out in this next year. I mean, that's not necessarily true. I did talk about some B movies, but those I think might hit. These next ones sound super weird, and there's almost no information about them out there, so I'm kind of just gonna rattle them off, but bear with me. Up first, we have a movie called Hatching. We actually do have a poster for this, and this movie is listed as completed, so we're most likely gonna get it kind of soon. And it sounds... Just listen. A young gymnast who tries desperately to please her demanding mother discovers a strange egg. Oh. She hides it and keeps it warm, but when it hatches, what emerges shocks them all. Sounds weird, I'm in. That definitely gives me Lamb vibes, where when you hear about the movie, you're like, okay, tell me more? But that's all we know. So up next is a movie called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. All I know is that it's an American slasher film that's gonna star Pete Davidson. So, I mean, come on. Up next is a movie called Mr. Harrigan's Phone. When Mr. Harrigan dies, the teen who befriended and did odd jobs for him puts his smartphone in his pocket before burial. And when the lonely youth leaves his dead friend a message, he is shocked to get a return text. It apparently stars Donald Sutherland, which my generation would know as President Snow. And that's a really interesting premise. Texting a dead guy? Okay. And lastly, on my list of most anticipated horror movies of 2022 would be a movie called Cello. An aspiring cellist learns the cost of his cello is much more insidious than he thought. A simple story about a man and his cello? I'm intrigued. I mean, it actually might not even end up being simple. What if it ends up that his cello is sentient? Whatever happens, I'm interested. But that's gonna do it for today for all of the new releases that I'm pumped for. To conclude with my top 5 most anticipated movies of this year, let's start with number 5. At number 5 would surprisingly be Halloween Ends. I thought about it, and as much as I love this new trilogy, I'm a Scream girl at heart, and the more independent original content that's coming out has me more excited. So coming in at number 4 would then be Scream. Again, I'm not putting it higher because even though this franchise is one of the most consistent in terms of quality, I'm not super pumped for a 5th movie. Up next would be Jordan Peele's Nope, and literally the only reason why this isn't number 1 is because he was an executive producer of the new Candyman, and I hated that movie, but I'm an immense fan of Get Out and Us, so I'm excited, of course. Then coming in at number 2 would be Don't Worry, Darling. Since Midsommar, I've been dying to get Florence Pugh back in a horror role, and here we are, blessed yet again. And it's starring Harry Styles and Chris Pine. Like, could we really ask for more? Could we? But the girl that I follow even more closely in this genre is Anya Taylor-Joy, so of course I am most excited to see The Menu. It just sounds zany, sounds like a good time. I am beyond ready for that movie. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 most anticipated movies of the year. I'm also excited for a lot of these other upcoming movies. But what about you? Is there anything that I missed? Let me know before you head out on this fine New Year's Eve, and you better have a safe ride home. Or else, papa! Because if you don't drink a glass of water for every alcoholic beverage that you consume and get a designated driver, I'm gonna spank ya, personally. Here comes the part of the video where I'm done with today's topic, but I'm not necessarily done talking. So let's hang out for a minute. Maybe tell me any of your New Year's resolutions if you have any. I actually have one for my more strange subscribers. Maybe stop asking me if I'm single, or stop DMing me on Instagram to tell me to follow you back. Maybe put those on your little resolutions list. Because whatever you think we are, maybe reevaluate that. Because when I talk to you, I'm actually talking to a camera right now. See, look, hi. So when I'm talking to you, that's what I see. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. I'm literally rambling to a camera right now. As for myself, do I have any resolutions? I don't know, because time has kind of lost all meaning to me, especially given the fact that I work for myself most of the time when I'm not working on set. I guess if nothing else, I want to just, you know, keep going. I want to pursue my goals. I want to try to work on a horror movie set this year. Even if it's just mine. Oh, that is a resolution for sure. I want to finish my short film. But it's hard. Me and all my friends, we have jobs, you know, we have a life, and we're all working for each other for free. You know, they're on my set for free. So it's hard to coordinate that, you know, but I really, really hope that by this time next year, you have seen my first official out of film school short film. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I have to thank my patrons, of course. Here are your kisses. If you would like my kisses given to you at the end of every single video, my Patreon is linked down below. You can also get early access, and sometimes you get some bonus content. But other than that, I got nothing else for you, except that I hope that you stay safe tonight. L'chaim.